and welcome to Inner Secrets Revealed, Kabbalah class with Dr. Gil Tivon. I am your host, Mike Ray, with Metaphysical Sciences TV. As always, today we have yet another amazing and enlightening and truly inspiring class tonight. Anyone who's been following us, you know we have been going over the Tree of Life, or in Hebrew, the Etz Chaim, which is the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. We will try to bring up a picture of it in just a moment. And what we have gone over so far are the different Sefirah, or the different vortices on the Tree of Life, through which the properties of the Creator are emanated. So we have gone over all the Sefirah, starting at the crown, or the Kether in Hebrew, and we worked our way all the way down to the kingdom, or Malkuth. And now we are starting to learn more about the sacred secrets of the Hebrew alphabet, starting with Aleph. We have gone through many letters, and now we are going to connect to see how these letters are intertwined with what we are learning and what these things can teach us into the mysteries of Kabbalah. And we are focusing now on the meridians, or the different pathways between the different Sefirah on the Tree of Life, which I will bring up now. As you can see, here it is. So we are working on now the different points that connect the different Sefirah, and of course the governing sacred Hebrew letters. So without further ado, we will turn it over to the man of the hour. Let's give him the power. Dr. Gil Tivon, everybody. Dr. Gil Tivon.
Hi, good evening to you all, and it's beautiful to be with you again. We are with you on Thursday, every Thursday, and once in 2 weeks on the Monday, on more the healing area of life. And there is a deeper connection, of course. And we are zooming into the Tree of Life. Again, the Tree of Life in the Hebrew is Etz Chaim, and it's really written as an E-T-Z, Etz, which means the Tree of Life. And Chaim, you don't have such a letter in the English. Cha, you have it in the Russian, in many Eastern languages, which is the Cha, like a hummus and not a hummus. So in English, you'll write it either as a CH, like in Chabad, or you'll write it as an H, will be just He. And so tonight we're going to zoom in on one of the letters that really gives life, and that's the sacred letter of Chet, which is an incredible letter. And I think that I have sent as well that letter just above today for you to see it. So it's spelled as a Chet, which is a H-E-I-T in the English. It's very similar in the English to the letter H, right? Or a CH, a combination of it. And it's not a rare letter because it is mentioned many, many times in the Torah, in the Bible, and especially it's mentioned where it talks about giving or breathing the breath of life into every human being, which means Vayipach ba'apav b'shmat chaim, and God breathed into us the soul, the living soul of life. And the word for life in the Hebrew is Chaim. We shall write it for you into the chat between us. Let me quickly see where it is. And here we are, right here. So let me write it to the chat. So in the English that will be like that, Chaim, right? Which in the Hebrew will be Chaim, or life, right? So life itself is defined by its very letters. So what can be more important than life? So the question is, where does it belong in the Tree of Life, and what do we understand life is? Well, let's imagine that you are sleeping next to one of your friends or your partner or your significant other, and you're deep asleep, and she or he are calling you, and you are fast asleep for many hours. Say, anyone home? And there is nobody home because what they're seeing right now is a body which is lying out there with the soul not being present. Every night, very much like the movie The Matrix, our soul is being taken away from us, back to God, to be recharged and prepared for the next day and give account for whatever he did this day. So when we look at the physical body, that is not called life. Just the physical body lying there without the soul is very much just the flesh, but it's missing the actual personality, the who you are inside it. On the other hand, that's on the one hand. On the other hand, if we look and try to speak to a soul, to a spirit, which is not in the flesh, well, most people will run away and shun away from this because it is not within the flesh. And even those people that do channel, or much higher above is the prophets, when they did speak to such people, so they knew very much that they weren't alive. In other words, a spirit or a soul without a body is also not considered live. It is very much living, but it's not considered live as we know it. So what is life? The very definition of life is the combination, the merging, the interaction, the marriage, consistent marriage between the soul and our physical body. Once the soul is embedded in the physical body, as it says, and God breathed into us the soul of life, that is what we call life. That's the only way we know life. It applies to human beings. It applies in a certain way to the animal world, to the world of the plants, but on a lower level. Obviously, animals can speak. Obviously, plants also have their own language, but this is a much lower form of intelligence. So the soul of life, as we know it, belongs especially to human beings. Again, this is very important for you to understand. When we talk about life itself as we know it, even though we might have not thought about it before, we mean by that a combination between the physique, the physical flesh, and the soul embedded in it, as I usually do like to call it. We are spiritual beings who are having a physical experience within that flesh. Once that flesh is done, then the soul rises up, soars back to heaven, and does not come here anymore. We are visitors. We are spiritual visitors in this earthly world. On the other hand, once the soul is not there, the flesh doesn't have the definition of life, and we can experience it through clinical death. We can experience it on a smaller scale when we sleep, and there's nobody to speak to at all. When we experience with somebody is in a shock or any kind of coma or something like that, when the actual soul, the personality is missing, and there's only a physical flesh within the body which we can experience that. So the very definition of life is both of these interacting together, and this is defined by the very letter chet, which means from the Hebrew, and let me write it again for you. That will be the Hebrew letter of chet, as I'm spelling it now for you, and that in the Hebrew will be called a chet, or in English it will be written like that. Let me write it in a nice way for you to see. Something like that, a hate, right? That's the English version. If it was in Russian or in the Hebrew, very good. So that will be echet. You can hear the ch, like you say charasho in Russian, which I don't speak. Don't pretend to speak, but at least we know the sound of that letter. It means any kind of liveliness, any kind of personality. And again, when you meet any human being, and that is what it's all about, we're not talking about only the physical experience, because once we peel off that physical experience, we meet the very personality, the character that is behind, the living soul of that person, which we experience through the actions, through the behaviors, through the interactions with us on a physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual level. And this is defined very much by the letter chet. However, period. However, there's another way, and this is not a game, it's not a play of word, this is a game of life. It's a very mortal game, if you like to call it a game. There's another way of very much spelling that letter, and that defines a great deal of life as we know it. Let me write it down here for you. And that will be the word chet. or in English, that will be that which means sun. So there's two ways, especially in which this very letter is given in the original sacred Hebrew, which either means life itself, which means a very sacred sanctity of the soul embedded in the flesh, divine soul. But if we don't watch it, that very soul within the flesh, which is the source of our limited senses, using the five senses, being drawn after the material, being drawn after our lusts and passions, can fall very easily into sin. So it's very important for you to understand, not that there's anything wrong within the physical world, not that there's anything wrong within the material, not that there's anything wrong with the five senses, but seeing it, observing it, experiencing it in this world creates in us a delusionary kind of experience where we get pulled, drawn down after the physical urges, and we believe to a great extent that this is reality. For example, when I visited NASA quite a few years back, so what they present to you over there is a 15 feet huge block of metal, and it's barbed wire around it. It's electrical fence, and he says, please do not put your hand inside. Why shouldn't you? It's just a piece of steel, 15 feet steel. And the answer is because it's not really a piece of steel. It's a very thin piece of steel which is vibrating so quickly that to the human eye, it seems as a 15 feet of steel. Truthfully, it's so thin. It's maybe 1/10 of an inch, but because of the high frequency, it seems to us to be this way. The same happens with our planet. Our planet Earth, Mother Earth, seems to us to be very, very solid. But really, if we had to condense all the material, maybe we'll get a tennis ball. If we had to condense your physical body into its real materialistic value, we will get maybe a 5 cents or 1 cent kind of a coin. That's all it is. Everything else around it is just vibrational. It seems to the human body as an illusion to be reality. And so God wanted us to feel and see this reality as it is, and we enjoy it very much, but we are forgetting and forgetful that this reality is not really the truth. So what is the true reality? The true reality is your personality, your character, your values, your behavior, your emotions, who you are, what you represent, your essence, behind which seems to us to act through that flesh. And that's beautiful, very delicate tightrope walking between knowing really who you are and representing it through the flesh is what we consider life. So when we go look, and if you can bring it up, please, Mike, the Etz Chaim, the tree of life, right? Again, the Etz, Etz, which means the tree of life, we will see over there that the letter Het is one of the meridians which interconnects between the different spheres, between the different emanations of God. But it is of such high importance, and there you go on the left part, right? Very good. Between Bina, which is understanding, very good, and Chesed, which is kindness. So Bina is considered in Kabbalah to be the mother sphere, which means it's full of compassion, it's full of delight, and it's full of life. And it is the source of life as we know it when it comes to us. Again, the source of life is God, but he brings down life through the Sefirah, which is called Bina, and it's connected together with Chesed, which means kindness. In other words, the whole point of life is incredible benevolence, kindness, goodness, compassion, an act of kindness of God to give us and breathe into us life. And imagine how many billions and billions of people are not around that we will never know because they don't exist. And you, when you wake up into life, you do find that you're very much there, right? You find that it's very much there. And again, I hope that you're hearing me loud and clear, because on my end, there's very good signal, there's very good Wi-Fi. Let me check everything with me is absolutely right. So on my end, it seems to be right. I will speak louder and slower, and hopefully you'll be able to hear it in a better way. I hope so too. So let's see if it's yeah. Now we are good to go. So how does it come? How does it manifest into our lives? Well, let's go a little bit deeper. And once we have located this, we have to understand quite a few things. For example, the word sin in English is a very poor translation of the original Hebrew. The word chet in Hebrew, which means sin, actually means to miss the point, to miss the target. We came to this world with a very clear mission from God, each and every one of us. The general directives given in the Torah, in the Bible, for example, the Ten Commandments, the specific directives to each one according to who you are. You have a very specific soul with unique gifts, and those gifts is what you're supposed to do with it in this world. Most of us, because we live in this world, we bogged down so much with the marathon of life, running a marathon in sprint time, being completely breathless and not having time to contemplate on what life really is. But somewhere in midlife, when you're being caught, whether it's in your teens, your 20s, your 30s, your 50s, or your 80s and 90s, you look around and most of us feel very resentful or a great deal of frustration of not being able to achieve that goal that we know, that we feel those dreams, higher dreams, that we know that we could have been in touch with and fulfilled. This is the real reason or the real root for the word sin in Hebrew, which means lachto, which means to miss the target. You have a target in front of you, you have a direction, you have a mission, and not being able to get there because we bogged down, sometimes enforced by life circumstances, and sometimes because of our own lust, desires, diversion from the right track, as we all do. We take for granted this incredible gift, once in a lifetime gift called life, and expecting life to last forever, which nobody lasts forever in this world, or that we always will have the time to correct and we always run out of time, or that we can fix it in the next life. Well, who promises us the next life will have the opportunity to do so? And so this is a very serious and grave issue of you can do it today, try and do whatever you can today. You don't have to finish everything, but start walking along the direction of your tikkun, of your rectification. Now, if we do watch, if you can bring it up, Mike, please, that letter chet, the way that it's built, right, you'll see that it's built like an upside down open vessel. In other words, take a cup, turn it upside down, and you will end up approximately with the shape of the letter chet, which means like as follows in Kabbalah. If somebody comes to this world, there we go, yes, if somebody comes to this world and you want to sin, you want to live it up, you want to spend your days in pubs or other places or with addictions, all kind of lust and desires, you can do that. Nobody said you're welcome to do so. Nobody said you're allowed to do so, but you have a free choice, which that's God-given choice that you can do whatever you wish. Will there be consequences, repercussions to your actions? Absolutely. How do we know so? We know from Adam and Eve. All they've done is just take one bite of the tree of good and evil. One bite changed the entire history of mankind. They were thrown out of the Garden of Eden. They went to work according to the Bible. Working is a curse. They were supposed to be very, very angelic and live a very fulfilling life, doing the mission and service of God and themselves, but they missed the point completely and therefore brought death to this world. And all of us have to finish this life somewhere in our 70s, 80s, 90s. Nobody lives more than that. It wasn't supposed to be this way. So watch one action. How severely is being taken by God? Question: is God so severe? Is he so strict that he takes things so in such a strict way? And the answer is no. We don't understand what we're doing. we don't understand the severity of our actions. Imagine that you have a child that was born an orphan child, that all he knows is a little room that he sits in, a white, beautiful room. There's no leverages, there's no windows, there's no human being there at all. At night time, when he falls asleep, some very compassionate nurses, men and ladies, teach him through hypnosis how to speak, bring him food, clean up the room, and when he wakes up, all he sees is one beautiful white room around him. And that's a very boring kind of life, but that's life as he knows it. One day, being 5 or 6 years old, he's being taught during sleep, in hypnosis, how to read and write. He sees a leverage somewhere there, a lever, right? And it says on that handle, it says, please do not pull. Well, the curious mind of a child, don't pull, it means what will happen if I do pull? That makes me very curious. Because till now, this world was very boring. You just walk around, dance around, run around, not much action. Now suddenly somebody's telling me do not do something. What's the first human reaction when we are being told not to? First reaction is being very curious. Second reaction is why not? Why not? Who says not? And so the third action will be rebelliousness. I am in charge of my world. I will do whatever I want. So this little guy pulls the lever, the leverage. And once he does pull that handle, all hell breaks loose. And part of that wonderful space, imaginary space he lives in, opens up, which is a door. Big, strong men pull him out, put him in an electrical chair, and tell him, let us show you what you've done. When you pulled each time on that handle, you caused an atomic bomb to blast off in some huge major city around the world. 10 million people, 5 million people, few 100,000 people, every time you pull that handle. Me? I didn't know. Yeah, but we told you do not pull. But I didn't understand the repercussions. But you've been told, the only thing you were told is do not pull. That's what God told Adam and Eve. You were given the whole world to control, to live in, to enjoy. One thing I told you not to. You're very naive. You thought, well, what will be if I do? Well, you tried to pull. And here's the result: death, disasters, illnesses, wars, hatred, jealousy, first brother twins around Abel and Cain. One stands up and kills the other. Not very pleasant continuation to our free choice. So, the very nature of free choice is given in this letter, Chet, that we're discussing. There's a verse in the book of Deuteronomy that says, please see, please observe. I have given to you today, God is speaking to men and to all humanity, the gift of life and good, and also the choice of death and evil. Choose life. It's a very famous verse in the Torah, in the Bible. What does it mean, choose life? What does it mean, good and evil? It means life as we know it can carry on for many, many decades and more, as long as we choose good, as long as we do what God told us. It's not because we are just obedient servants, because God is our Father, He gives us only what is good. Cannot be differently. But when we use our rebellious nature, we say, no, I'm going to do my own good. And my own good involves drugs, involves lusts, involves stealing, involves cutting corners and doing what I want. Then we end up destroying ourselves, using our ego, and then we choose death. And death can come out as poverty. It can come out as illnesses. It can come in short life. It can come in very bad relationship, ending in divorce. The divorce rate in the States is over 60%, 60%. And so we call out to God and say, why do you hate me so much? Do you give me a life like Job? And the answer is, God says, no, I don't hate you at all, my friend. I love you very much. More than you love your own self and your own life. You have destroyed your life. So we're full of complaints to God. And there's a beautiful box outside my house which says 1-800-God. Please complain. Tell us what you want to complain about. But the real answer is you have caused, you brought about your own destruction On every level, you should always only turn to yourself and blame yourself for the way your life looks, because we know a Kabbalistic rule which says everything that happens in your life is a mirror image of the way that you conduct yourself, your personality, and your personal journey in this world. So let's summarize. We said some incredibly powerful, dramatic stuff tonight. One, the actual definition of life is being managed, manifesting with this letter Chet. The shape of it shows you've got complete free choice to use the material and your free choice to the nth degree, and enjoy life as much as you want, live it up. But there will be terrible consequences. So you can define life as Chet, which means Chayut, complete life, divine life, spiritual life, like quite a few people in this world manage to understand, wise people, and must live very, very long lives, very fulfilling, happy life, satisfied life of accomplishment. But many people, maybe most, have gone deep down the rabbit hole into the physical material lusts, and therefore have destroyed that very delicate tightrope balance that we call life as God has defined for us. And who better knows what is good for us than our Creator, right? Very much like a program in the computer will say, I don't want to do what the programmer have told me. I'm going to do my own thing. Well, that will definitely cause an incredible blast in the computer, and that program will be out. That's what we do. And then we complain against God and said, well, you gave us free choice. I'm trying to do my best. So why are you so cruel to me? And the answer is no, you're being cruel to yourself. You brought it all around. Is there a way back? Yes. There's a way out. There's a loophole that God has created, incredible compassion, knowing we made out of flesh and blood, knowing we all have evil inclinations, knowing that we will fall, that we will falter. And He has designed this letter Chet that is an upside down shape, like a cup. And if we make a little hole at the top of it on the left side, it will turn out to be the letter Hey, which in the Hebrew means tshuva, which means you can find a way to have a real way back. Up there on the first five letters, Mike, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Hey, right? The fifth letter from the right to left, which is called the Hey, right? And it's the same shape exactly as the Chet, but there's a little opening there, which means if you go to the root cause of what made you fall, why are you addicted? Because you're very sad, because you're numbing the pain, because you're running away from your inner child, from all kinds of things that happened to you. Nothing to blame. You can't handle it. So you run the symptoms, the repercussions, the behavior is of addictions, of lust, desires, but really it comes from you being very sad, very lonely. So if you understand the source of it, try and rectify it, and understand that you're never alone. God is always with you. There are always beautiful human beings around that can make your life a haven on earth. And so you can turn it around. And the way to do it is starting with yourself. Life doesn't offer you this is very important what I'm going to say. Not because I'm saying it, because that's the way it is. Right? We know it for over 5,000 years. Life doesn't offer you what you want. Life doesn't offer you what you wish. Life offers you what you are. Again, if I want $1 million, life is not going to offer me this $1 million. But if I behave in a benevolent way with other people, being kind even to people who don't deserve it, well, God will say, well, measure for measure. He's being a very kind, benevolent person. He's emulating me. God himself, let me be benevolent and kind with him as well. If I want the world to smile to me and say, well, I'm such a bitter person and lonely, so why can't God smile to me and other people? It doesn't work this way. You have to fake it till you make it start smiling at the world, for the world to smile back at you. It's beautiful. If you want love, offer love. Otherwise, we say, well, I'm being so loving, why I'm getting it in my face? Well, maybe not. Maybe you're being very judgmental towards others, and that's why you're getting it in your face. And, and so on and so forth in many other areas of life. So moving forward, moving forward. And again, my great challenge is how to translate you from the original sacred Kabbalistic Hebrew into the language that we all speak for us to understand. But what we can understand is as follows. The letter Chet, if we count from Aleph, the alphabet, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet will be the eighth letter. Where do we find number 8 within nature? Let's have a look again. The number 6, we know that there's every single physical space has got 6 directions. Right and left, forward and backwards, up and down. 6 directions within the physical space that we live in. Where is the 7th direction? The 7th direction we discussed last week, the letter Zayin, is within. That holy space within that gives us the spirit of life. Where do we get the number 8? Well, the number 8 is above nature. It's not a letter, it's not a number that we found within nature. It's the merging between the soul and the body. It's the circumcision which we enact on the 8th day, which is above nature, because no human being on his right mind in a logical way is going to circumcise his son or her son on the 8th day, when it's a very seemingly a little bit painful kind of act. And if God created everything perfect, why should we do so? And the answer is, first of all, let's go medically. Medically, it was proven in many, many countries that any baby boy that was circumcised, he brings down the ability, the statistics of him contracting AIDS by more than 50 to 70%. Incredible. So that's why many people in southern countries, in eastern countries, I know in South Africa for sure, we've been circumcised because they know this is the best immune system and surety against AIDS. Very interesting. But what it does do is saying, well, I'm not going to use all my lust and passions. I am not an animal. I will not lower myself to relationships or to all kind of interactions which will make me not better than the dog next door or the cat at my house. I'm going to be more of a sanctified human being. When I will find a significant other, that will be a real valued, loyal relationship. I'm much better than cats and dogs. I don't have relationship with everyone. I'm not cheap. That is the real reason why circumcision is done at that reproductive organ, to make sure that we can rise over our nature. Yes, we can, but I don't want to. I choose to do better. I choose to elevate myself to a higher divine level rather than showing around how animalistic I can be, because that is exactly the test that God gave us. Do not fall into the materialistic. Do not fall into your lusts. Be bigger than that. Doesn't mean you cannot enjoy your life, but enjoy it in the proper way according to the directives of the Torah of the Bible. That's on the one hand. Second, where for the first time do we find within the Bible, and soon I'm going to give you time for your questions, the letter Chet? Well, at the very beginning of Genesis, when it says Choshech al pnei Tom, there was darkness, complete darkness on top of the abyss. That's the letter Chet is being brought the first time, which means the letter Chet represents, when it comes into this world, this very world, this world in the original Hebrew, I'm going to write it to you in the chat between us, this world is called, let me see, where is the chat? Here we are. This world is called in the Hebrew, Olam. And Olam comes from the word He'elem, for those people amongst you that know how to read it, it's quite a lot, right? Which means complete hiddenness, mystery, or in hiding. This whole world is a mystery. This whole world is deceiving us. This whole physical world is an envelope. It's a shell around to hide away from us the real truth. What is the real truth? The real truth is that we're not separated. We're not separated. We're not alone. We're not just physical beings. We're not just materialistic beings. We weren't born just to buy and shop and go to the malls and enjoy ourselves all day. There's a higher purpose to life. When are we going to uncover that purpose? When we're in hospice 95 100 families before the end and say, my dear God, I've discovered the reason of life? Or are we going to do it much before, turn it around and make a difference to our lives? Like quite a few people around this world made a difference, found the light, have gone in the right direction, still enjoy their lives, still had a beautiful marriage and children and a very vivid, wonderful life, and visited Cancun and Dubai and other places, but they knew how to lift up their life. I've only given examples, right? Many other beautiful places in Los Angeles, New York, and others, and as well as beautiful Arizona. And so they've turned around their life and made the merging of the soul conducting and directing the physical to that mission that we all on this earth very much for, and which is very, very important. So last but not least, one of the most important things is that when we do have an interaction with other people, we call it in Kabbalah Rishon, which means what is the impression we give to other people? Do we come across as people with grace, people that have got a cute, nice nature which is being liked by others? In the Hebrew, cute, nice, beautiful nature that's liked by others is called chen, which means by the grace of God. We all liked to be liked. It's the way we present ourselves that is going to show out there whether we're being liked or not. We create that like. It doesn't make a difference what is your IQ, how rich you are. It depends on your being able to sincerely smile and enjoy other human beings and make yourself likable to others. I didn't say over-pleasing. I didn't say appeasing. I didn't say nullifying yourself, just being nice to other human beings in that human interaction between you and them. This is your projection of who you are. This is also represented by the letter Chet. In other words, there's a finity, there's a refinement, there's a quality of how you represent life. It's just not right black and white, right? It's not 0 or 100 where there's either life or not life. No, there's a quality of life. That quality is what you create of it. Nice, cute, graceful nature that comes across between you and other people. So this is in the crux, the basics, the initial, the first stage, the first steps we are taking to understand the depth of one letter, which is connected between Bina, understanding the source of life, as we know it comes down from there, combined with the right side of the Etz Chaim, which is Chesed, which is the kindness. Combining these two bring out the soul of life and the gift of life to each one of them, which is handed. And wherever I find you right now, wherever God finds you, whichever age you are, whichever life circumstances you are, health-wise, relationship-wise, career-wise, financial-wise, spiritual-wise, you can say, I want to put across and give a better life to others and therefore to yourself as well. Why not? I deserve it. And start to input your soul and your spirit in a divine way into your life to give more quality of life into your life, that you should look in the mirror every night, not when you're 95. Every night and say, I'm very proud of my achievements. I'm proud of myself. I made a difference to other people today. I was kind to other people. I was graceful. I was compassionate. And then you know you make a difference. You rose up to the occasion, and then God and all of us are proud of you because with what you don't have, you created and made a difference. Not with what you have. Again, no change of circumstances, just change of attitude and understanding what life is for, dedicating every day, putting aside some time to your spirituality, to elevating your soul, and living a qualitative life in whatever you do, instead of just a quantitative, bitter life, rather living a better life. Thank you so much. I've spoken more than enough, as I usually do. And now it's up to listening to your questions, my dear audience, and of course our dear friend Mike. Please go ahead.
Okay, so um, thank you for the very enlightening lecture. We covered a lot there, and I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people rewinding and looking, back in the videos, because on Facebook, unfortunately, there's an interruption with the live stream, so it had to be cut into multiple videos. However, that will not be an issue with the replay. So if anyone who's watching us live, thank you for sticking in with us and the complications. So we do have a couple questions that have already come into us. So I guess we will get started with some of those. One person comments and asks a question pertaining to the number of Sefirah on the Tree of Life. A true student or teacher of Kabbalah would very likely agree that all religious teachings and esoteric teachings have been corrupted. Let's take, for example, the Tree of Life or the Sefirah. If you count the nodes, I'm sure they're referencing the Sefirah, you will usually find representations with 10 or 11, sometimes 8, and most are inverted. Sometimes there are lines connecting multiple ones at the bottom. Sometimes there are different lines connecting at the top. There are different letters. How is one supposed to find throughout all of these corrupted teachings the genuine, true teachings of Kabbalah? So this is a question that, of course, we've been asked before, but never so directly in this manner. So, Dr.
So
Tivon,
again, for me to
give you
understand,
the floor.
right? For me just to understand the question. Yes, the question is again, which we have discussed here in this platform a few times. Why is it 10 and not 11? Am I understanding the question correctly? Yeah. And
Yeah,
the answer is it's a very important question, and that is a question that if you open the book of creation, the book of creation was written by Abraham, the forefather of 4,000 years back, and that predates any other kind of religion or tradition that we know of, as he was the father of Eastern religions, of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. That's the Bible is a testament and signing signature and seal on that. So he says that very clearly. We're talking about 10 and not 11, 10 and not 9. Why is that? Because there's a virtual Sefirah, which we discuss always, which is the Sefirah of that, or the Sefirah of knowledge. Sefirah of knowledge, we can look at the Tree of Life, Mike, is a combination between the sphere of Chokhmah, or wisdom, and the sphere of Bina, which is understanding. The result of these two bring out knowledge, but it's a virtual thing. In other words, it does not have a life on its own. It's very much like we gave last time a very beautiful analogy. We have an architect and civil engineer together. They give us the know-how and the knowledge of how to create this house, this building, this zoo, this hospital, whatever it is that we want to build. But as we see on the Tree of Life on the left, Mike, there is no sphere of that, of knowledge. There's one in the right one and in the middle one, because it's just a virtual one, which is a product of two others. And so we don't want to give it too much credits on its own. It's like two countries making a merge, two companies making a merge, but without two people coming into that covenant of marriage. You can't say that as a marriage can be handled on its own. It doesn't have a life on its own. It's only by virtue of the byproduct of these two people joining to these companies, to these two of these countries, that we have a marriage. So that or knowledge is a byproduct, and therefore it's 10 and not 11. And this is of great interest. There is what to speak about us, and I have been speaking about it in other private forums the last few days, which goes on a deeper level. So again, the fact that we say that Abraham, the forefather, very much put an effort to say 10 and not 11 means there is a question. There is what to contemplate. There's a question over here that requires an answer. And I've given you the right, very simplistic answer, which is true and deep, that it doesn't exist on its own, but only a byproduct of other things, and that's why it's called the dot, right, on its own. Thank you. Any other question, Mike?
Okay, so thank you for that answer. I think that it sums it up great. We have, of course, addressed that multiple times, and one of the other parts of the question were why are there so many different representations of the letters being in different places? So I just want to bring up again the Etz Chaim just one more time, just so we could show that the correct representation. So I have it brought up here, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the correct representation of the tree of life is the one all the way on the left.
All the way
And
to the left, as well as the one plus minus in the center, which is also quite correct because it, and again, as I said to you last time, to our dear friends and audience, it works as follows. We have three mother letters, which is the Aleph, Mem, and Shin, which are the running parallel lines between the sphere, between the emanations. Aleph, Mem, and Shin. Then we have seven letters which control seven major spheroids, emanations. And then we've got 12 letters which are left, which are the meridians, which represent the highest zodiac signs around the world. Now, if you think it's a lot, let's go to the Chinese. In Chinese, you have 7,000 letters. 7,000 letters. Roman, Latin, English, French, all the European languages are a result of the Hebrew alphabet, and they came and is a derivative from it. So let's say thank you to the fact it's only 22 letters altogether, and not 7,000, which we very much respect, which we understand they're needed in a different language. But the fact that we can describe the entire creation, the entire organism called a human being, the entire personality of a being just using 22 letters is an immense, amazing, mind-boggling understanding that we can condense all of our DNA and all of our personality and all of life into such few letters in such simple forms. And there is a book which is written in the introduction to the Holy Zohar. It's called Rabbi Yehuda Saba, right? He was one of the great sages of old, some over 2,000 years back. And he describes every single letter in its original state, why it's there, what did it formulate. There's another book called Rabbi Akiva, who also delves into the shape of letters. And so whatever we're discussing in these lectures over here, it's not my innovation. I'm just a midget standing on the shoulders of giants who walk this earth and who contemplated, dedicated their lives to understanding these atomic spiritual atoms which actually run and manifest the entire creation. So what we're doing over here, we're giving you an inkling of how to do it. How does it manifest? Imagine the Karate Kid. You come and you do your wish and you wash and you wish until you get bored and said, oh, what about it? But understand what we're doing now, just the basics. Take your name. Does your name have an H in it? Your name is Haim, or your name is Hillel, or any other name, John, that's got an H in it. What does it mean? There's the H, you can't even hear it in the John. Right? What, or Johan or Johanna. What does it mean? Do you have an H in your name? What kind of a different personality would you be if you take away the H? Well, I take away part of your DNA. What will be if your home, I'll take out the letter H, it's just the home. No, it has to have the H. Or a house, just be a house. So many, many words in the English and in the Hebrew and many other languages need to have as part of its very structure any one of those letters, and taking them out messes, destroys the whole construction, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. as well as human names. There's a whole different workshop which have been given separately in other places about understanding how does your name work. What is the secret of your name? Who are you about because you have an H or an A or a B or a C in your name, and the position of those letters, which in America, in the Western world, is very unknown. We know numerology, which I delve into quite a lot. We know astrology, it's a different workshop, but nobody always knows the sacred combination of letters which gives the form and life to trees, to animals, to human beings, to the shape, to our very homes with an H. Why is it there? So every letter has got an incredible, immense necessity and essence in it. And what we're doing here, we're learning the basics. And when you go to sleep or when you start to contemplate and try to apply it to the words that you know, take away or add this letter, said, wow, that makes the whole world of difference to it. So let's just summarize. I see that Mike started to summarize. 3 letters are the mother letters, which is Aleph, Mem, and Shin. 7 letters are those letters which control or govern the 7 major Sefirot emanations, and all the 12 other letters, one of them is the Chet that we discussed it tonight and last week design, and that's what we're doing the last few lectures. They are governing the zodiac signs and all the interconnection which give life itself. They are not less important. They are not less important. It's like me showing you my fingers. Can you say that my finger is most important since I'm pointing it? If I show you my head, can I say it's most important? No, maybe my heart, even though I myself have never seen it, is the source of life. If my heart stops or yours stops, life as we know it will end. Even though we know it's there, we can feel it, but we've never seen it. So understand that those 12 letters, which are unknown to us normally, they are the very intricacy which create lives in all its intricacies as we very much know it. Maybe the last question, because my time is up here in this room and time that I'm sharing. This very short last question, Mike, and if not, we'll call it a night and we'll thank everyone again.
Okay, well, thank you very much again. Yes, we actually do have one last question.
Very short question. Go ahead.
I'm going to have to shuffle the deck right now because there's a couple to pick from. So I apologize if we don't get a chance to address your questions. We will address them either next week during the same time, same place, or on a Monday podcast, or possibly we will start doing questions and answers videos on Wednesdays. So
Or
the last
use
question.
the chat with my email, and you can definitely, if you have a short question to ask or pertinence of great value to you, you're more than welcome to send it to me through my email. Yes, last question, Mike. Please go ahead.
Okay. So yes, and I will leave Dr. Gil Tivon's contact information up at the end of the podcast. So the last question for the evening is about the Sefirah of Kether. Now, the Sefirah of Kether, is this supposed to be synonymous with our higher self, or is this supposed to be synonymous with God, or the universal consciousness, or the will of the universe, I guess as some would call it in metaphysics? So that's a good question.
It is part of it's part of, not total, part of our divine self, part of our higher self. Is definitely our connection with the divine, connection with what is good. However, we shouldn't fool ourselves, because even at such a high level, there can be sometimes connections to the source of evil as well. But in a theoretical world, right, in a world which is all good, it is our connection to the divine, it's our connection to our higher self, it's our ability to communicate and to meditate and to have intuitive understanding of and grasp of other things. So we want to access information, answers from our higher self, which are above the human nature. This is where people that do channeling, mediums, as well as any one of you during the dream, can definitely learn how to access. We can definitely delve into this in a different kind of a workshop, but this is where we can do. So thank you very much. I'm very sorry I've been cold, which you cannot see. And we will carry on. Please God, I think it will be this coming Monday. We will have our lecture on the Monday at 7 p.m. Arizona time on the Western Coast, right? And we will carry on with mental health and healing over there. Thank you so much, Mike, and all of you. And
Hey, thank you very much, Dr. Gil Tivon, for that amazing lecture and for answering all those questions in such a great and in-depth manner. Okay, we would like to thank everybody for joining us tonight and everyone who participated and asked questions. For everybody who joins us with our Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday pod classes, thank you all very much. And again, a very big thank you to Dr. Gil Tivon for putting this lesson together for us and for taking the time to share this knowledge and this information out there for free, because this is something that is very much needed in the world right now, and it is using this knowledge to better ourselves and the world around us and people around us, and learning how to apply it, which is what our aim is here at Metaphysical Sciences TV, whether it's through this Podclass, Inner Secrets Revealed, Kabbalah class with Dr. Gil Tivon, whether it's mental health, spirituality, and metaphysics talk with Mike Ray, or whether it is our Monday classes on mental health, mysticism, and metaphysics discussion with Mike Ray and Dr. Gil Tivon. So, one way or another, you are stuck with either me or Dr. Gil Tivon, and we will just hold hands and walk together down this journey and on this path to enlightenment. And we hope to see you guys next week, same time, same place. And I wish you all a good afternoon, evening, morning, noon, night, whatever time it is, whenever you are, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us all. This has been Inner Secrets Revealed Kabbalah class with Dr. Gil Tivon. I am Mike Ray, your host of Metaphysical Sciences TV. Thank you, everybody, and I'll see you next time.